All right, well, last lesson for plants. 23.5 is transporting plants. And again, we're back to the original goal, relate the structure of each of the major plant organs and tissues to the physiological processes. The objectives are to explain the process of water movement in a plant and describe how plants' products of photosynthesis are transported throughout a plant. So if you're looking at a tree, right? How does so much of that water get hauled up to the top of it? So our first objective is to explain how the process of water movement in a plant works. So as water evaporates through an open stomata, the cell walls within the leaf began to dry out. The dry cell walls draw water from the cells deeper inside the leaf's vascular tissue so that the water is pulled up through the xylem. The hotter and drier the air and the windier the day, the greater the amount of water lost and more water the plant draws up from the roots. You can imagine this as an analogy as a chain of clowns who are tied together and climbing up a tall ladder. When the first clown reaches the top, he falls off, kind of a sick analogy, pulling the clowns behind him up and over the top. Similarly, as water molecules exit through transpiration, they pull the water molecules behind them up. That's how transpiration works. Water molecules are attracted to one another by a force called cohesion. As you recall from Chapter 2, water cohesion is especially strong because of the tendency of water molecules to try to form hard hydrogen bonds with each other. Water molecules can also form hydrogen bonds with other substances and result from a force called adhesion, which is an attraction between unlike molecules. The tendency of water to rise in a thin tube is called capillary action. Water is attracted to the walls of the tube and the water molecules are attracted to one another. The thinner the tube, the higher the water will rise inside it, as you can see from this figure. Xylem tissue is composed of tracheids and vessel elements that form many hollow connected tubes. These tubes are lined with cellulose cell walls to which water adheres very strongly. How convenient is that? So when transpiration removes water from the exposed walls, strong adhesion forces pull in water from the wet interior of the leaf. That pull is so powerful that it extends down through the tips of the roots to the water in the soil. So, explain the process of water movement in a plant. A combination of transpiration and capillary action provides about 90% of the force that moves water through the xylem tissue of a plant. Objective 2. Describe how the products of photosynthesis are transported throughout a plant. So, the leading explanation of phloem transport is known as the pressure flow hypothesis, which you'll see in this figure right here. First, the membranes of the sieve tube cells can use active transport to move sugars from their cytoplasm into the sieve tube itself. Second, water then follows by osmosis, creating pressure in the tube at the source of the sugars. Wants to maintain the equilibrium isotonic. And then 3, and if another region of the plant has a need for sugars, they are then actively pumped out of the tube and into the surrounding tissue. Water then leaves the tube via osmosis, reducing the pressure. The result of the pressure flow system is the flow of nutrient-rich fluid from the sources of sugars, source cells, to the places where sugars are used or stored, which are called sink cells. The pressure flow system gives plants flexibility in responding to changing seasons. During the growing season, sugars from the leaves are directed into the ripening fruits or into the roots for storage. And as the growing season ends, the plant drops its fruit and stores nutrients in the roots. As spring approaches again, the phloem cells in the roots pump sugars back into the phloem sap, and the pressure flow system raises these sugars into the stems and leaves to support the rapid growth. So our second objective was to describe how the products of photosynthesis are transported throughout a plant. So changes in the nutrient concentration drive the movement of the fluid through the phloem tissue in directions that meet the nutritional needs of the plant. Our 2 objectives, again, were explain the process of water movement in a plant and describe how the products of photosynthesis are transported through a plant. and they all relate to our goal, to the structure of each of the major plant organs and tissues and the physiological processes. And that is the last lesson for chapter 23, all about plants. I like that picture of the huskies. Enjoy.